Father, I just thank you that the Word of God has been placed as a seed, and this morning that it will bring forth fruit through your daughter. In Jesus' name, amen.
Hello. Hello. Oh, there you go. How are you guys? Good morning.
Amen.
We all look very awake. Starting you guys off with a very funny story that happened to me tonight. So we actually got home around 11 o'clock last night. Jeff didn't want me to tell his story, but I'm going to. We got home around 11 o'clock, and we have a dog. I always tell you about my dog. His name is Red. And usually he sleeps from 8 o'clock until 5 a.m. No issue. But somehow we get home at 11 o'clock, and we hadn't eaten, so we started eating. He's like barking up a storm. We're like, just leave him there. It's okay. Nothing's going to happen. So he quiets down, and we're like, okay, let's go to sleep. So we change into our PJs, and 5 minutes in, he's like barking. Like it's 12:30 or 12 a.m. and he's barking like crazy. Now, we live in an apartment, so my landlord lives underneath us. So instantly, I'm like, if this dog barks, like I'm getting kicked out, like he has to stop. So it continues, and Jeff's like, okay, I'll take care of it. You have to preach tomorrow, so I'll do it. Now, our process is we never take care of him with our PJs, so we actually have our red clothes. So he changes into red clothes, and he goes in, and okay, it's 12 o'clock, 12:30. He puts him back in the crate. He comes to sleep 1 o'clock. He wakes up crazy. I mean, at this time, I'm like, Lord, help me. Anger, like, what's going on? I'm like rebuking demons. I'm like, Lord, this is actually an attack. You want me to do this, and the enemy doesn't want me to sleep. Oh, Lord. And then, I'm like, okay, I'm like a little angry. So I'm like, Jeff, I need to take care of him. So now I go into my red clothes. Jeff changes into his PJs, and then I go and I take care of Red. So I'm like, okay, you have too much energy. Let me play with you. At 1 o'clock, 1:30, I'm like throwing toys. He's running in the kitchen really loud. I'm like, Lord, what's happening? What's going on? Okay, we get him. 40 minutes. At this time, 2 o'clock, I'm like, okay, I'm going to put him in the crate. He's in the crate. Okay, Jeff, he's okay. Let's go to sleep. Now we're both in PJs. Another storm, like, the whole house. I'm like, what's going on? So at this time, both Jeff and I change back into red clothes. So you gotta remember, we're changing back and forth. There's no stopping. We take him out and we're like, we don't know what's happening. What is going on with this dog? So, and then I'm like, okay, Jeff, you just stay here, stay in this room, and let me go see what's going on. So we keep playing with him, and then I put him back at 3 a.m. or so in the crate, and he quiets down. But I'm like, Jeff, he can't make noise. He can't go in because his crate is in a room. So we actually ended up laying in the living room sleeping to let the dog sleep in the room with the lights on and everything. And I'm like, okay. Then like 5 minutes in, I'm like, Jeff, are you awake? He's passed out. I'm like, but I get this small sofa. I'm like this. I'm like, okay, I'm not comfortable. I can't sleep. And then I think at like 3:15, I'm like, Jeff, let's go to sleep. Like, we're not going to get a good night's sleep. So then we change back into our PJs. And like we're just walking slowly in the room. The bed makes noise, so like Jeff is like little by little, like trying to get in the bed. But then he actually ended in like, I think what time did he wake up at? 6 a.m. today? Yeah, so it was a crazy night. I like to believe that it was actually an attack, just kidding, I don't know. Maybe he's teething, but it's okay. Great. That was my story. I was hoping to make you guys laugh. A little hard to make you guys laugh. It's actually proven that if I make you laugh, you're actually going to partake in the teaching. So it was kind of like a psychology thing. You guys are my experiment, just kidding. Okay, great. So it's going to be a little interactive today. So I want you guys to think about a great desire, an accomplishment, an aspiration that you guys completed. So you got 1 minute. Think of something that changed your life around, that made you feel the most excited. Okay, I'll look at you guys while you think. Okay. All right, perfect. So it can either be, I'll give an example while you think. When I was young, I didn't even know that, but I actually got like the best student in math. I passed like all the Asian kids. I was like top. I was like, that was my greatest accomplishment. Thank you, Lord. But part of the accomplishment, part of why we desire to accomplish, it's because we are wired to seek reward. I'm a scientific, I love science just because it proves the reality of who God is, And I mean, if you were to ask me who's one of the people, like if you were to die and see, I would say the father of science, all the way. I forgot his name. Wow. What's his name? No, not Einstein. Physics creator. Newton. There you go. I love Newton. So part of our the way the Lord created us is we are wired to desire reward. What reward makes us do is when you receive reward, your brain, a second before, it triggers something, a neurotransmitter, so we're talking about cells now, that causes dopamine to be released. This is actually the chemical in your brain that causes pleasure. So whether we like it or not, we continue to always seek that desire to be rewarded. It's within us. It actually makes us feel pleasure. It's very relatable to sexual relationships. It's very relatable to addictions. This is why we crave it, because it's something that happens in your brain. So whatever thing you have done, my next question is the same accomplishment that you thought about, do you still feel that feeling today? Are you still there, or was it just a momentary thing, and that now you just keep thinking things because that kind of triggered, and this is what you're doing life with? Just a momentary feeling of, I feel great, I feel pleasure. Do you still feel that? I don't. I was young, great, I walked down the aisle, received my thing, my mom still has it at her house, but I don't feel the same feeling. I'm actually every single day walking to achieving something better. The next thing. Having the next new car that is going to make me feel. I remember when the first iPhone came, I think I was 16. I started working when I was 14, so I had to buy my own phone and get my own service. But I remember the first time I went to the AT&T store and I'm like, the iPhone, and I'm going to get my mom a phone too, yes! After I think a month I dropped that and it broke and that feeling was not there anymore. You know, that's why iPhone releases an iPhone every year, because you lose the sense of the new thing. This is why a lot of companies give you new things, because they understand how your mentality thinks. We're always looking for the next thing, the next reward, what makes you feel better. But see, today I want to speak to you about one of the greatest accomplishments on earth, and I like the simple gospel. I just started school this week, and I can't wait for the next years because the 1 week wrecked me. I mean, I went into school thinking, I know all of this, like that prideful, I'm going to be honest to you guys, that prideful spirit of, yeah, it's just going to be teaching, it's going to be another certificate, but instantly it's like my heart, like, yes, Lord, the gospel, the truth, even about the fivefold ministries. I'm sure one day if I get to preach, I'll preach on that again, but it was just so good. So I am very triggered by the simple gospel. And the accomplishment that I want to talk to you guys about today is actually the cross. And I want you guys to now take one more minute and think about, what does the cross mean to you? When you think about the cross and carrying the cross, do you think about it being a burden? Do you think about it making your life different in the sense where you're losing who you are for the sake of following a law that's actually going to get you somewhere? Or do you think about the cross as something that just happened in the past and there's nothing that attaches you to it? Or do you think about the cross, when I was young, I was never very religious, but I did go to a few Catholic things, and I know, once again, I was probably 4 years old, and there's a thing that goes because of me, because of me. I used to pound my chest, me, just money. Or do you think of that? Because of me, you died. Or do you think about it being the greatest love story on earth? See, it took me time to decipher and realize that this is actually the greatest thing on earth. The cross itself is one of the greatest expressions Jesus had for you and I. And he talked about it so much. Let me get into my notes. I did not put my password. I actually try not to put a lot of notes because I tend to lose myself, like last time, which is okay. But, see, the cross was the accomplishment of the love of Jesus. He didn't seek for the rewards to just kind of give him that dopamine and just continue. He walked the earth for that one goal. See, the cross is where I'm heading to, and that is the cup that though when I go to the Garden of Gethsemane, I'm going to ask God, would you move this cup from me? But at the end of it, I'm going to be obedient. And right before he actually prayed that prayer, he actually told you and I, the disciples, this is my new cup and take the covenant of it. Before he actually knew, and even though knowing that the cup was going to bring so much affliction, so much suffering to him, he actually told you and I, regardless of how painful it is, you're going to take the love cup. And that is going to be the covenant of you and I becoming one with Christ. There's nothing else, and even though that makes me feel so much pain, I'm going to do it because you are valuable. See, the accomplishment of God was not based on the reward that our humanity goes through. It's not about just one little thing just going through our nerves and saying, oops, yes, I feel so good, thank you. He didn't crave that. He understood the reality of who he was in God. It was necessary for Jesus to come as a man and then die on the cross so that you and I could walk the similar way. If you stand today thinking that the cross is actually something heavy to carry, I'm here to tell you that good news, that it's actually something very light. It's actually you walking out in the same way Jesus walked. And if it's a little hard for you, I want to just bring the verse that I'm going to speak about. If it's a little hard for you to walk that out, I want to speak into your life today and give you assurance that this is actually the good news of Christ. Yeah. That the cross is actually love. That the cross is actually him doing what he did for you so that you and him can become one. That the reward that you will receive is not here but seeing him face to face. See, Moses is the only one that got to see him face to face, and he couldn't see after. If today I was to see God face to face, I would burn. Like, I was praying this morning, and I'm like, this is so crazy. I would burn. Like, if I was to see him, I would burn. But let's go back into the verses. It's going to be... Now, before I go into the verses, I want to bring back... We need to start thinking about the Bible in the times that it was written. Okay? You have the Gospels, which were written by the disciples. The verses that I'm going to speak today, it's just one verse, but it's actually spoken by 3 different disciples. Okay, we have Matthew, we have Mark, and we have Luke. Each place where they were writing to a certain congregation. Okay, so Matthew spoke to a certain people group, Luke spoke to a certain people group, and then Mark spoke to a certain people group. So, Pepe, can you please open the verses? Let me open here. Okay, so the first one we have is Matthew 16:24. So then he goes and says, and Jesus said to the disciples, whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up the cross and follow me. And then we go to the next one, which is Mark, and now he's talking to another type of people. He goes, then he called a crowd to him along with his disciples and said, whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. The next one, it's going to be Luke. Now, all of them said the same thing, but Luke somehow found one thing that he had to put in this. And he said, then he said to them all, whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross daily and follow me. See, daily is that one word that he had to put, because maybe the people there were questioning, like, so I'm dying to myself, like, that's it, like, I'm losing who I am. Like, that's it, that's just a death to itself. But he made it a point to say, their cross daily. See, for us to become the disciple of the God, and the disciple of Christ, and carry the cross, we have to do it daily. That's right. And now here's another question. When I tell you to deny yourself, what's the one thing that pops into your head? I can't do that because it's not good. Or, no, I can't do that because it's not. See, if you go into the word of denying and what it actually meant back then, it actually means die to yourself. Part of the reason why we seek to be rewarded is because it's all about us. One song that I remember loving hearing, there's a song that actually goes, I struggle with the same thing the devil struggles, which is pride, that I want to be just like God. I mean, that I always preach about because it just makes me go crazy, but it's true. Our desire is we want to be rewarded. Our desire is we want to be known by us. It's that self-desire to continue growing self. And see, my belief, and please do, go back home and read this, and if you do not agree with me, if anything, let me be an encouragement so that you can have that one-on-one with God where he can actually tell you what his word says. Because his word is living, it's always speaking the new thing. Amen. But see, that word deny actually means say no to the self-rewarding thing that you have going on. Say no to the fact that you want to become your own God. Say no to the fact that things are actually more valuable and more worthy to you than myself. See, we carry the cross not because it's heavy, but it is because the thing that Jesus did for us that made him so valuable and so worthy to us that anything that is before us, we deny it because it's not worthy comparable to the cross that Jesus died for you and I. So if today there's one thing I want to do is motivate your heart to see the cross as the greatest blessing and love that you've had. I want you, when you think of denying yourself, not to think about, I can't do this, but I want the Lord to just cleanse you and for you to realize that it's so much more than denying yourself. Because everything that you think is greater than him, it's but nothing compared to the cross. That's why he purposely put deny yourself, then carry the cross. He never said carry the cross, then deny yourself. Because the only way we're able to actually understand the concept of God is the moment that we understand that everything that we have before us is but vapor. See, anything that we have before us, it's like this. Today, I can die. Today, we promised each other we would never die without each other. My husband can die. Today, I can lose everything that I have. But at the end of it, the thing that stands the most is Christ. And it's such a simple message, but I am such a believer that the Lord actually wants us to go into the simplicity of who he was to understand that it is not about us anymore. Before Christ went to the to the cross, he went on his knees and he washed the disciples' feet. To be able to understand the cross, we need to go through that moment. We need to go through the purification, oh my gosh, you actually do love me. Oh my gosh, the creator of the Lord is willing to actually kneel down and wash my feet. And he's willing to teach me the good news. He's not just going to throw me in there for me to do it. The 33 years that Jesus walked on the earth, it was mainly to tell you and I about the good news, but also to teach the disciples how to actually deliver that. See, we wouldn't have what we have now if it wasn't for Paul. Paul actually went to Ephesus for 3 years and built up a church, which that was actually the epicenter of how everything was distributed, everything. From that one moment, because he felt the zeal of the Lord and because he understood the worthiness of the Lord. The disciples did not say, I am denying myself. I can't. It is with understanding. And then you have the other story of Peter. You know, here's Peter when the Last Supper happened and Jesus is just literally like on that holy moment, like, I'm actually going to die for you guys. And Peter just wants to receive that reward, that dopamine going to his brain. No, Jesus, they might fail you, but I'm never going to do that. And then Jesus just lightly goes, the crow is gonna crow? The rooster's gonna crow, and you will fail me 3 times. And that happened. But the most beautiful thing that happens is when Jesus resurrected, he goes and finds Peter lost in the ocean, and he asks him to come out, and he meets him face to face in that one love action. No matter where you are, no matter your opinion, no matter anything, he's always going to come for you. Because he's not a God that makes you strive, he's not a God that puts work into this whole thing. This whole thing is just but a love story. This whole thing is you leaving yourself behind. See, my marriage cannot work if it's everything about me. I have to lay my life down for my husband. I have to lay down my life even if my dog is going to make me murder him, but I have to lay down my life. I actually went through that. I mean, that's the reality of the cross. It's not this heavy thing. And if you're finding yourself that, no, the temptations that I'm going through, the reality is, and if I can be so bold to tell you, if you are going through temptation and it's hard for you to let it go, it's because these temptations are greater than God. You somehow have made your brain think that the temptation that you're going through, it's much more stronger than the power of the Lord over your life. But the good news is that if we dive within him and we understand, which takes that cleaning process that he had with disciples, the understanding process, then that's going to lead us to be able to deny ourselves and carry the cross. See, if you're a new believer, I can't just throw that on you. I can't just tell you, great, you know the Lord, now pray, and now go. It's actually a thing. And if your cross today is actually a little heavy to carry, that's why if it's a little heavy to carry, then you have people around you to help you carry it. Jesus himself had the guy that helped him carry the cross. That's how simple it is, but yet sometimes we make it hard about ourselves. Today, Jeremy actually, I need to just make a point. Whatever pastors talk about or whatever the worship team spoke about and whatever this is, we never even talk about it. But that Cody Carnes song, before he goes, all I want is you, he goes to say, I am sorry for my agenda. I am sorry for just singing a song. I am sorry for just following their routine. Because sometimes, even if we know God, we tend to go back to that one self of, I'm doing it, okay, great. And that's where we need to deny ourselves. And this is why we actually make the statues of God, because it's easier for us to worship a status that kind of has rule over us than to actually believe that God wants us fully. Because we are able to give part of ourselves that are easy, but it's very hard to give the hard things. And this is why we make statues. So if today in your life, if you know the Lord for a long time and you feel like, you know what, it's true. I have made God into this self-God who He brings me all the blessings, He gives me all the prosperity, He makes me feel good, He makes my dopamine go a little high, but there's no real connection, then we need to have that. Then you need to be able to just literally kneel down and just soak before the Lord. Because that's actually necessary for our Christian lives. It's necessary to have that time. This is why the secret place. This is why praying. Church doesn't force you to do it out of religion. We do it because it's necessary for you to actually have those steps, for you to actually have a communion with the Lord. And through that, it's where you'll be able to deny yourself. See, he goes and says, disciples, if you actually want to be a follower of God, okay? He could say my friends, but my friends are different. No, if you want to follow me, if you want to build my temples, if you want to teach, if you want to prophesy, if you want to do what you want in my kingdom, then you need to deny yourself. You need to let go of your own beliefs, let go of your own emotions, of your own temptations, let go of what makes you, you. And the moment that you make me, you, then it's the moment that everything changes, and then I bless you. There's no greater reward than the one that the Lord gives to you. Yep. I was not going to share this, but see, I actually, have we heard about dreamers? Yes? Okay. I'm actually a dreamer. Not anymore, because now I'm actually applying to be a citizen. But the moment that I became a dreamer, everybody was like, oh, Michelle, just get married for papers. Like, nope, the Lord is going to bless me with them. The moment Obama released that thing for dreamers, it was so beautiful because I know that it was a gift from the Lord. The moment that we live things for the Lord, it's the moment that He changes everything. A blessing from the Lord is greater than the blessing that you can bring for yourself. And it's going to bring so much prosperity than the one that you can make for yourself. Because you can bring yourself blessings. Today, you can go high in the corporate ladder and get there. Today, you can get to wherever you want. You live in America. The American dream, it's actually true. You can actually get to the places that you want to get it. But if you do it with your own strength, it's going to be futile. But if you deny yourself, and you do it with the thing of God, it's going to be completely different. Because His word is there. His promise is there. He is not a vapor. He's forever. He is the beginning and the end. He has no end to Himself. So if there's a blessing that comes from Him, it will have no end. Give me 1 second. What if today the whole church actually saw the cross the way that it's intended to? What if we achieve the fullness of God through the unity of Christ with understanding the cross? Then I think that we would actually be in that time of revival. See, we pray for revival, but we are not willing to actually lay it all down. We desire the movement of God, but we just want that kind of feeling. But we're not willing to really invest our lives into who God is. If you've been coming on Sundays, and it's just a Sunday thing, then I would love to encourage your heart for it to be a daily thing. Yeah. A daily thing where you actually just really understand the Lord. I want, if anything, I don't ever want to be known. But if there's one thing I want to be known is that I actually spoke of the love of Christ. See, I was the type of youth, I know the Lord since I was 12. And I was the youth that actually talked during the services. I was the one little child, kid who people didn't, they were like, Michelle, shut up, be quiet. Or I was just not present in a lot, but I listened to the Word of God. And it was not until the age of 18 where I really encountered the love of God. Where I really encountered not God, religious God, and not I have to do things because I know God, but my identity, who I was transformed by Him. And don't get me wrong, many times I mess up. But the one thing that keeps me pulling, it's the fact that I know that He loves me. I know that He died on the cross, not so that I would live a religious life, but that thing makes me and Him connect at one point. See, my goal, what makes my brain go crazy, it's the fact that one day, Him and I will be alone in this room, music will play, and I get to get the first dance with Jesus, my Father embracing me, and me just dancing with Him. If you could ever ask me what's the one thing that I want to do with Him, I don't want to ask Him anything. I just want Him to hold me and to just dance with me, to lead me to the first dance of my first walk in heaven. Oh, that just blows my mind. Church, I encourage you to get to know the Lord. I encourage you to be fully in love with who He is. Not the religiousness and not the thing. And if you're going through struggles, I want you to know that we are there for you because the struggles are real. That sounded kind of slang. Struggles are real. Mental health is actually real. If you're going through depression, please see us outside. Let me help you. Let us help you. This is why we carry each other's cross. If you are not doing well, we want to be here for you. But the only way that can happen is if we are vulnerable between each other. I want the love of God to be the reason why I'm known. I don't want to be known for anything else than I loved you, I love my brother, and I deny myself, regardless of my own thoughts, because I do have them, and regardless of the things that I go through, I choose love, and I choose to know my brother and sister, and I choose to lay my life for them. This is why unity is so spoken in the Bible. Because it's about that. Because the only way I can deny myself, it's if I love you the way Jesus loves you. That's actually part of it. Part of it's not just kind of walking in this way, okay, I'm denying myself. But if you encounter the love of God, then the product of that is going to be love. If the product of that is something else, then I encourage you to actually look within your heart and ask the Lord that He will just contrite your heart. And if you may find any wicked thing within you, that He may show you and He may forgive you, and you would just continue in the path. See, these are the prayers that David actually prayed. He didn't just do things out of just moving. He actually prayed like, God, if there's anything wicked in me, then just show me, God, and let my heart be contrite. Let me actually feel the heaviness of not knowing you. Because it's not about me not being perfect. It's about this thing actually removes me from knowing you fully. I want the fullness of who God is. And if I have this, it's not allowing me to do it. It's not allowing me to encounter you. Father, if there's anything within my life that doesn't let me connect to you, God, then Father, I pray that you break it. I prefer losing my eye and my arm than losing my connection with you. If we are addicted to things, it's because that one thing is actually greater than God. I encourage you to start looking at science and what addiction actually does to our bodies and why we actually crave it. But see, God changes it all. And speaking actually about science, something that I love, it's actually a study in the University of Pennsylvania. And please go ahead and read it too. And if I'm wrong, there's probably another university. They actually did a study of what happens to the brain when they pray and when they're meditating God. Your whole brain actually lights up, and it actually can cause your whole brain to change.
Wow. That's really good.
Nothing else can do that but God.
Yep.
It's not about just the one feeling. It's not about that little feeling, that trigger that makes me feel okay. It's about your entire brain. The thing that until this day people don't understand why we even dream. It's actually shifted by God. Because He's the creator of it, and He gets to change it and make it a whole that He was intended to be. So whatever you're going through today, And whatever you think about the cross, and if you agree with me, then I pray that you would pray with me and we would contend for the Church of America, for the Western mentality to change into this. For it to not be all about prosperity gospel, for it not to be all about whatever is happening, but for us to be so attached to the heart of God that whatever is happening around us, whether there's politics or our own health or our finances, that we would be one with Him, that there would be actually a peace within us that is without understanding, and that would be able to lead with that. This is why sometimes, I remember, I used to actually go to Jeff, I'm like, sometimes I get really anxious, I'm like, Jeff, I don't know why I get anxious. And some people will be like, no, there's no anxiousness of Christ. But it's actually the work of actually doing it. For me to actually not be in certain places, I had to lay myself down. I had to allow Him to wash me. I had to allow Him to actually fill me up. There's no way of being one with God without that connection that He can only give you. And it can't be a momentary thing. It needs to be a daily thing. We need to deny ourselves daily, and it's not something bad. We see the word deny because it's the way the English language actually portrays it. But deny is actually let go of your self-centeredness. Let it go. Sometimes we tend to be very narcissistic. Let go of that. And see God, that He may be one with you as He is with the Father. And in that you will find where you should be. It's very simple. But that's all I want to share with you guys. I pray that you would be encouraged by me and I would be encouraged by you. It's not really about emotion. It's plain gospel. Even the disciples will actually just speak plain gospel. Paul was not even met by the gospel. The Lord actually blinded him and he was encountered with Him by that. Peter, the love grafted by agape love. John, he just knew who God was. He laid down when He was in the cross before Him. Mary, she understood the worth. She was able to leave all her oil or her inheritance to the Lord. See, our inheritance, partial inheritance now, is the cross, and we get to live with it. And that is the strength. That is where we find our strength. It is not in our own beliefs. It's not in the things in our own achievements, but it's in the achievement of the cross. That He could have passed the cup. Because that night before, he actually cried blood. But you and I were so meaningful to Him, without a price, that He was willing to go through it. So the cross, it's actually your greatest achievement that you'll ever accomplish. Because of Him. If we could just stand. Music in the back. And I've never really done this, but if you have never accepted Christ as your Savior, let's close all our eyes, please. And if you've never accepted Christ as your Savior and you're like, Michelle, I want to get to know this Christ of the cross that died for me, then please lift up your hand. I would love to pray for you. If you feel like you need to rededicate your life to Christ, and you want to be in this place of knowing the cross in the reality of which was intended to be, then I want to pray for you. If you don't feel like your body's doing well, if you feel like your health is not where it's supposed to be, then I want to pray for you. I don't want to pray for you because I have anything better than you guys. But I believe that unity, and I believe that my prayer for you denies myself so much that I get to show you who the Lord is.
Yes.
The altar is open. If you feel like you don't want to come up and you just want to raise your hand, I'll go to you, or Pastor will go to you, or Jessica will go to you. But we are here to love you, and we can encounter the cross together.